Are you looking for a new recovery-related podcast to add to your playlist? The RRC has recently launched its first podcast titled The Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In the RRC, the Recovery Revolution Community, we have some amazing online meetings, and one of those is our Tao Recovery Meeting. In this meeting, one chapter of the Tao Te Ching is discussed every week as to how it relates to recovery. I hope you enjoy this week's podcast episode.
Hey guys, Buddy C. This is the April 18th, 2019 Tao Te Ching meeting for the Recovery Revolution Community. Marla, what's our email that folks can contact us at?
Just in case you want to email, it's wisdom526@gmail.com.
Yeah, if you got any questions or comments, we're happy to hear from you. If you want to join us, you're welcome to. Go to omarpinto.com for details on the Recovery Revolution Community. Today we've got Kurt L. and Craig M. and Lala M. Almost said Lala C. And Marla H. How's everyone today?
Good.
Good, thank you.
We're going to be talking about ending our conversation on the 38th verse of the Tao Te Ching. Got some good stuff here. Mostly going to be talking about the Wayne Dyer commentary, and we'll touch on the Derek Lynn. And I don't know if there's anything in the Stephen Mitchell. I'll have to take a look at that. If there is, it's usually short. He's got a little. Let's take a moment, have a little moment of silence, and see if we can start listening a little. Okay. Isn't it great sometimes when we can just listen instead of having to listen to ourselves all the time?
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Let's any comments, first of all? I know Craig and Marla were here last week. We had a abbreviated, Marla.
Yeah.
We talked last week about applying love to your situation, where you were trying to get over your when they fired you, and you just had all these bad feelings about it.
Yeah.
Have you made any progress with that?
Well, I did. I know in my dreams I made progress in that my coworkers or ex-coworkers were being very kind to me and towards me, and just being very generous and sweet.
In dreams.
In my dreams. So I know there's some progress I'm making.
Wow.
In some way. Still having a hard time being kind in my thoughts, in my consciousness. But I'm not feeling as much anger and bitterness as I was. It's dissipating. It's taking time.
It does take time. That did not happen overnight. So the answer is probably not going to be overnight either.
No. I wish, when we let go, it's gone. But in my case, for me, experientially, it seems to last a long time, but it dissipates. It gets better till it finally goes away.
I want instant everything.
Yep.
And it doesn't work that way. Hey, Kirsty, how are you today, dear?
I'm okay, thank you.
We're just getting started on the 38th chapter. So we're talking about how when we let go of things, how they sometimes take time, and we don't want anything to take time. We want everything instantly.
Right.
So what do we do when these things come back around? We just continue to let go.
Yep.
We just continue to surrender.
Progress.
And that's really the practice.
Yeah, it is a practice.
Is learning to surrender in more moments of the day, no matter what we have going on. No matter what it is, that we learn to let go, that we're not the director. We can phrase it any way we want to, but it's all saying the same thing. I got to let go of that shit. That's what it's saying. It's either let go or get dragged.
Right.
There's nothing else.
I don't want to be dragged.
Oh, I'm tired of getting dragged.
Yeah, I am. And I'm tired of myself. So.
Good. We talk about praying for them, kind thoughts.
Kind thoughts.
We're doing the Buddhist route. It'd be the kind thoughts.
Yeah.
Loving kindness.
Yeah.
So that's good, Marla. Keep us up to date because I know that'll get better. For me, it just seems to lift a little every day that I practice it. So
yes, I agree with that.
Okay, the 38th chapter. We're going to skip the 4 readings. They're very long, and we read them last week, and we started this conversation last week. We're going to read the Wayne Dyer. But just as a kind of a little recap before we read it, talking a lot about the flower, that the sage seeks the fruit and not the flower, seeks the essence and not the outward superficiality. That's the things we're going to be thinking about today as we read and talk about this. And the ways in our life that we're obsessed with the external rather than looking at what's real. For example, one big example for me is I'm obsessed with my weight. I've always been, because I was a fat kid. So I was picked on as a kid. So weight has always been an issue with me. And I even have a thing where I keep up with my sugar, but I put down my weight every day. And I've obsessed with it. And I've learned lately not to do that, to let go of that.
Yeah.
So, this body is not me. I'm within, this is just a body that I'm using. I am not this body. I don't know if that speaks to anyone, but
it does. It's so funny when I always thought I was really fat, and then I've been learning all along when you just like simple phrases like I have an elbow, but I forgot how it goes. I was looking at a thing about being skinny, and you have a lot of skin, so you're skinny. Mm-hmm. I have an elbow, but I'm not the elbow. I have fat, but I'm not fat. Kind of like that. I've had to redirect my my inner voice about my fatness into the kind of thing you're talking about. Like, this is just a body I'm housed in until the next life, take care of it. And who cares if I got a little fat on my tush, Yeah,
I remember one time I got down to the weight that I thought I should be, which is like 15 pounds less than I am now, 12, 15. And I thought, I don't feel much different. That tells me that I'm focusing on the wrong thing. I'm focusing on the flower instead of the fruit when I get that achievement and it's hollow. I see heads bobbing. Y'all had those hollow achievements? Like, fuck, I thought I'd feel better than this. What is this? I worked hard for this.
It didn't make you feel any more confident?
No. I just, okay, what's next, And then I realized this is not it. It was like a financial achievement or some other achievement. You thought, oh, I'm working for this. Well, I don't feel any different. Then I realized that it's an inside job,
Yeah.
Inside job. So that's a good red flag to know that you're focusing on the flower instead of the fruit.
As long as it doesn't turn into an eating disorder.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this keeps it from doing that,
Yeah.
I suppose it's really like why we drank, or why we used. We're looking for something to fill that void. look for something to fill the void that wasn't really there. When everything we actually needed was right around us, with all the love and care and attention that we needed right in front of us.
It's all within, Craig. It's all there already. And as long as we're looking outward for that happiness, that peace and joy, we're not going to find it.
Mm-hmm.
No, and you're just as lovable with a little fat on your body.
Thanks very much.
And my wife is so blunt. I said, okay, I'm at 160. She said, I can't tell any difference. She said, you look the same. I'm like, okay.
Over the past 3 years, I've lost 5 stone, and I mean a lot of it's through medication changes. My husband says that he doesn't think of me any differently. I would beg to differ. I would beg to differ with that. I mean, that's his stuff. But in terms of how I feel about me, it's made no difference.
It's made no difference.
I have tried everything. I mean, I think one of my most profound realizations was when I got my second company car. It was the best thing I could get. And I remember actually feeling my heart sink when I got into it for the first time and going almost subconsciously, well, this isn't the answer, is it? I mean, it didn't stop me. So I do know from experience that, okay, no, I feel healthier. I feel like I can do, things that I couldn't do before. But in terms of how I feel about me, the self, it has made bugger all difference.
Interesting. How much does 5 stone convert to pounds?
Is that kilogram?
70 pounds.
70?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Wow.
Well, it's not really when you consider how I did it.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
It's the interesting thing for me is I've had a whole bunch of conversations with my girlfriend about this because she's not fat, but she's in recovery also, but she has body image issues. So she makes herself, walk around naked to feel more comfortable, in closed doors and stuff, but just to make herself feel more comfortable. And she says it has helped her a lot.
Wow.
And so I told her one day, I said, look, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you guys have the market cornered on body image stuff. Because like Buddy was saying, I still have body image stuff, and I'm not at the weight I want to be. And I mean, she dares me to walk around naked, and I won't do it. She's doing it for me, for my health, mental health, but I won't do it right now. But she doesn't view me as overweight or anything, which is mind-boggling to me. Because that's exactly how I view myself, as overweight. Like I can't get past it. There's no, and I've been heavier and I've been lighter. I don't feel comfortable in the weight I am right now. But, and of course it's a relationship. I think I'm relationship fat now.
Right. You eat out a lot and eat together.
My whole schedule. I don't work out as much. I'm eating later, all these things, so I've got to, but then I'm finding myself becoming a little less happy, a little unhappier because I stopped doing some of the things that were really good for me, like sticking to a plan and doing intermittent fasting and only eating, up till 7 p.m. and watching the carbs and all this stuff. Everything just went off the rails. And so I'm finding myself like trying to find myself again in this whole thing. It's really interesting.
It is.
That's what I enjoy about being married for so long. I no longer have to make the effort. If things kind of went wrong, I would really hate to have to make the effort again.
Craig.
Kurt, you do look good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, from here, torso up, you look great. The rest of you.
He has really fat legs. Okay, Marla, you want to read first, dear? I'll share the screen.
All right, so the 38th verse, Wayne Dwyer's version. A truly good man is not aware of his goodness and is therefore good. A foolish man tries to be good and is therefore not good. The master does nothing, yet he leaves nothing undone. The ordinary man is always doing things, yet many more are left to be done. The highest virtue is to act without a sense of self. The highest kindness is to give without condition. The highest justice is to see without preference. When the Tao is lost, there is goodness. When goodness is lost, there is morality. When morality is lost, there is ritual. Ritual is the husk of true faith, the beginning of chaos. The great master follows his own nature and not the trappings of life. It is said, he stays with the fruit and not the fluff. He stays with the firm and not the flimsy. He stays with the true and not the false. And so to go on,
I want to talk about these other commentaries before we read his mine, Marla. And I want to discuss this a little too. In the Stephen Mitchell commentary, he says about the part of the master doing nothing up here. The master does nothing yet leaves nothing undone.
Mm-hmm.
He has no goal in mind, doesn't think he is doing anything. He's just along for the ride. Just along for the ride. What's that called? Synchronicity? We've talked about that before.
Is it synchronicity?
Isn't that it, where everything just falls into place?
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you guys experienced that in
Yeah.
your everyday life? Some of that? I'm experiencing that more and more and more. Lala, you have something, dear?
No, I was just going to say that I found, in the past when I wasn't so strong in my recovery, I used to push a lot. Like, I'd move and I'd force the moving company to get everything done right away, or I really wanted to see some guy and I'd force a situation. And, I'm realizing that the less I do, things come to me. Things come to me naturally and in their own pace. Whereas before, as an addict, I want things and I want it now, and I'm going to do anything I can to force this into happening. And it never worked out right. It would work to some extent, but not the way it naturally, universally was supposed to work. So this makes a lot of sense to me, yeah.
That makes sense to me too.
This is really the way all of the Tao teaching is teaching this, in my thinking, is how to do this. This is the essence of where we're supposed to be. It says, yet leaves nothing undone, no expectations, no regrets, no residue. When the Tao is lost, you can never lose the Tao, but you can find it. Therefore, the master concerns himself with the depths and not the surface. In the depths, there is no distinction between depths and surface. Fruit in autumn, flowers in spring. He enjoys the flowers as he enjoys the fruit. What was the one we read lately about the fish staying in the deep rather than the shallows? They went in the shallows and they're more concerned with what's outside of where they are. They're trying to see out, and they get caught.
Yeah, it was the 36 verse.
Yeah. So in the depths, there's no distinction between depths and surface. I mean, if you've ever scuba dove or snorkeled, it's so much different, and you don't know what's going on up top when you're below. You know, it's a different world.
Kind of serene.
Yes. Okay. You want to lead us into the Derek Lynn there, Craig?
Yeah, do you want the whole verse?
You read his commentary side.
The commentaries.
Yeah.
His translations talk more about not people. It's more virtues.
Yeah.
Exactly. The other translations going about the foolish man does plenty but gets nothing done. I think I'll just read all of it. High virtue is not virtuous, therefore it has virtue. Low virtue never loses virtue, therefore it has no virtue. High virtue takes no contrived action and acts without agenda. Low virtue takes contrived action and acts with agenda. High benevolence takes contrived action and acts without agenda. High righteousness takes contrived action and acts with agenda. High etiquette takes contrived action and upon encountering no response uses arms to blow others.
Hold on a minute, Greg. So he goes from the highest virtue, which would be the Tao, and when that's missing, you have a lower virtue, which would be a contrived goodness. And then when you lose that, you try benevolence. Lose that, you have righteousness, then you have etiquette. So that's kind of the spiral, the road to hell, you know. That's the road, you know. And so every one is a more of a form of division and more of a form of control. So we can see in our different relationships and situations where we're just doing it because we are supposed to do, or it's the right thing to do. How many times you say, well, I need to do that. It's just the right thing to do, rather than being in a place of love, let's say, or on in a love consciousness where you're just doing what comes natural because that's what's natural for you to do. Big difference. Big difference.
Yeah.
You want to continue, Craig?
Therefore the Tao is lost and then virtue. Virtue is lost and then benevolence. Benevolence is lost and then righteousness. Righteousness is lost and then etiquette. Those who have etiquette are a thin shell of loyalty and sincerity, and the beginning of chaos. Those with foreknowledge are the flowers of the Tao, and the beginning of ignorance. Therefore the great person abides in substance and does not dwell on the thin shell, abides in the real and does not dwell on the flower. Thus they discard that and take this.
I think that discard that and take this, from what I read in the others, is talking about discarding, just doing the next right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not doing the contrived substitute.
Just get rid of all the superficial stuff and get to the real meat and bones of it.
He talks about etiquette as politeness. They fall back on protocol and rules to mask their true intentions. And if they fail to elicit from others the response they're looking for, they will use their arms, physical means, to force their views upon others in an aggressive manner. How many times have we been in relationships or in situations, either business or personal, where we've, like you were talking about, Lala, about using force when people weren't doing what you thought they should do, or things weren't, we become the director.
Yeah.
We become the director.
I just, as Buddy knows, I mean, I just came through something like that with this relatively new relationship. And there's a lot of stuff that I thought I worked out that just bubbled to the surface. And the old, I just look at it where I learned it from such a young age to control. Like my parents, they always knew what was best. It should be done this way. And there was a lot of frustration and anger and everything else if it didn't work out that way, instead of allowing things to unfold naturally. And like they always knew the best way that it should go down. And so I still, that stuff bubbles to the surface, even though I've done a ton of work in recovery. It's not as prevalent where I start moving my mouth and really screw things up, but it's still up here, which causes, up in my mind, where it causes, if I don't get it out and start talking to people, I can really get messed up. And it's just amazing how I think that I know what should be done and the outcomes, how, it's all about attachment to outcomes and the way things should be. And it's miserable when I'm in that mode. That's what I've noticed. I mean, it's really fresh because I just came out of it, but there's no like contentment or happiness. It's all about navigating people, and it's just not a good way to live.
I was thinking, this is just silly, but my sister-in-law lives in New York City, and getting into a cab with her, she tells the cab drivers how to drive and where to go. And not only does it piss off the cab drivers, but her and the passengers, me, because I'm so uncomfortable. So it's just all around trying to control everything, it causes discomfort in everyone.
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
The daily reflections for today was about self-honesty. It said the deception of others is nearly always rooted in the deception of ourselves. When we're honest with another person, it confirms that we have been honest with ourselves and with God. Talking about fifth step. But you reminded me of that, Kurt, when you were talking about telling someone, getting that out, putting those thoughts in telling them to someone, getting them out of your head. Man, there's so much truth in just doing that. And there's so much freedom in that. And I think all this is about creating space to allow our higher power to have room to work. Because if we're full of ourselves in a situation and leave no room, I think that's the beauty of meditation. That's the beauty of pause. Just stop. Just, if I don't know the right thing to do, I'm not to do what I think to do. I need to just wait. If I can do that and just give it a minute, how about the 10 count or the 5 count when you start getting angry? I mean, that's creating space, the same thing. That's a huge way to move up from rules and chaos and just acting nice to actually maybe walking in love in a situation.
And yeah, it's that grasping and holding on to what should be. It is hard on me. I just realized I didn't know how hard it is on me. And I can be my own worst enemy. And when I can be, like, for instance, this relationship, I was married 20 years, and I don't think I've ever cared. I didn't even know what love was. I had no clue how to navigate relationships my entire adult life because I was drinking from 16 to 47. And so all this stuff is relatively new. And when I'm spiritually fit and I can be where, wow, I've never cared more about a woman in my entire life, and I can get up and walk away at any time, and I know that I'll be okay, is where I'm in a really good spot where I can show up in this relationship instead of try to control it. And that's a really good, sweet spot. And I know because I was there and then I wasn't. And when I wasn't, this past week was really, really hard, and it was I think it was a little hard on her too. It certainly doesn't serve me, her, or the relationship. So
you hit on something there, Craig, Kurt, that we've talked about before, which is that we can't grasp what's coming, the new thing, as long as we're grasping the old thing, like floating down the river. We're on this thing is leaving us, and we're sitting there holding on, and the new thing's coming, but we can't grasp it because we're busy over here, got our cat claws in what was here before.
Which might be the thing where the best thing is if we came together, we learned a lot, and then we move on to the next best thing, new partners or whatever.
Who knows?
But who am I to be judging what really should be happening? You know, and it's a hard place to stay.
Yeah, it is. The flower, Derek Lynn talks about the flowers of the Tao. We had the flower, not the fruit, not the flower. He says the flowers is not a positive description, which we know that. The basic idea is that flowers have a pleasing appearance, but none of the satisfying goodness of fruits. Therefore, they're a metaphor for individuals who look good but lack substance. People who possess knowledge without real virtue fall into this category. They may project a knowledgeable image, but in fact, they're ignorant in fundamental ways.
Yeah, I think that kind of leads to, when we were going down from to politeness. In other words, appearances. And appearances with really little substance behind it. In other words, I'm going to do the very bare minimum to look like a good person to you and everybody around me, but I'm really not going to do much other than, a little bit of talking. Oh, sure, yeah, no problem. You can stay with me anytime you're in trouble, but there's no meaning behind it or no promise behind it. You just want to look like that great friend. And I've done it.
Yeah.
That's empty, isn't it, Lala? For both of you.
It's for look.
Yeah.
For show. And I once had someone call me on it and say, you don't really, really want me to stay with you, do you? And I'm like, no. At least I was honest.
It's some honesty.
Yeah.
He was talking about this is an admonition for us to focus on the inner essence, talking about discard this and discard that and take this. Focus on the inner essence instead of the veneer of superficiality. Instead of fussing over etiquette and knowledge, we should reach for benevolence, virtue, and finally the Tao. So, not bad.
Not bad.
Are you guys ready for the... let's read the Wayne Dyer commentary. Unless any comments before we do.
Yeah, I got one. I find this quite a difficult concept in terms of how it relates to the practical world, because we all know. Okay, I'm talking in terms of people here and essentially, people in recovery and how we know we should. Live our lives in terms of, we're not concentrating on the external. It's all about virtue. And I do know normal folk who will like those qualities ahead of, say, for example, how somebody looks or what money they've got or anything like that. However, unfortunately, that's not how society is. It's not how it's put together. Society doesn't work like this. And so as individuals who like to live their way in this, following this path, it can be challenging because you are opening yourself up to the judgment. And I know really if we were actually truly working the Tao or anything other of this nature, then we wouldn't care for that other person's judgment because it's their stuff. But our society is built on a judgment by external measures. And, I believe I have friends who have started, or unless they have already, have distanced themselves from me because I don't have I'm not working anymore, I don't have the right career, I don't have the right X, Y, and Z, because they are filled with keeping up with the next, person that they want to aspire to. You know, it's almost like I haven't got anything to aspire to be. You know, I haven't got the right things. And unfortunately, that is how a lot of people live their lives, including a lot of my family. So yeah, although we know it to be true, and if you put it to someone else, they would say, yes, of course, that's exactly what I want to do. The reality is, I'll say deep down, but not on the surface, the vast majority of people don't work this way. Or maybe I'm just being harsh, but I find it true anyway.
Most people are sick.
Yeah.
Or insane. Mildly.
Kirsty, most folks are not going to follow this path because they're blind to this. That's why they're always seeking and grasping and looking outside of themselves. And you're just going to have to accept that even family, I've accepted that my wife will probably never, she may, who knows, but you know, what she's done, though, is she has garnered a respect so that if I want to go meditate or if I'm reading something, she used to criticize and kind of roll her eyes and like, that's ridiculous, you know, kind of stuff. You know, I could tell what she was thinking, or I thought I did anyway, you know. But she has grown to appreciate it because of the changes that she sees in me. And the way that I treat her and the way that she's benefiting from it without any of the effort.
Exactly.
So she accepts it. And I'm okay with that because I can't change her. I can't, you know, any of those things. I have to just accept her the way she is. And she's great, but, you know, there's no, what I would think of as spirituality there. So it's just fact. And so I really have not hung up on changing her. I've had to let go of that, her too, the chaos of that relationship. The chaos is leaving because I've quit trying to direct her. Just accept her like she is, which, you know, we all have to do with everyone around us. So, and when you do that, you get an acceptance with it as being okay. I want to talk about the real application of this, like you were talking about. I'm going to share my screen and look at the Wayne Dyer. You know, when he talks about the truly good man is not aware of his goodness and therefore good. In other words, he's not trying to be good. He just is. That's being good instead of having and doing and being. He's moved to being. He just is. The master does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. The ordinary man always doing things, yet many are left undone. This is how the master does it, I think. This is the practical application. The highest virtue is to act without a sense of self. Highest kindness is to give without condition. See without preference. Those three things in this verse, I think, is the description of how to be good. If you are acting without self, what can I do for you instead of what can you do for me?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that whole idea of if I help you, I will get what I need.
It works.
Yeah. What's the one I like about if I go out looking for friends, I'll find none. But if the Zig Ziglar, if I go out to be a friend, they're everywhere. Giving without condition, without hooks, you know?
It's like I always lend money without expecting it back. Maybe appreciation is a little bit of a, condition, but to give without ever expecting anything back.
See, that's huge. That's huge. Yes, learning to give. Giving of your time and effort. How many times have I been nice to someone expecting them to be nice back to me? You know?
Yeah.
And when they're not, I get pissed off. I'm like, wait a minute. especially with my wife. My wife, that's one thing that I really have to work on. If I do something extra that I really don't think I should have to do, and then she doesn't even acknowledge it, you know, that's the childishness in me in a bad way that really comes out sometimes.
You want a reward? You want to play?
I'm like the little dog. I want a reward every time I sit like I'm supposed to, you know.
That's like, it's the sickness. It's the sickness in other people, you know. I can never really stay mad at friends that it's not in them to give back or anything like that. They don't see themselves as doing anything wrong. I now look at it as just kind of their issue and don't take so much offense. I do take offense as somebody using and knowing they're using and, you know, bleeding till the well is dry. But now I kind of look at it as, oh, they don't know. They just don't know.
Yeah.
They just don't know.
I try to do that, Lala.
It doesn't always work.
See, this just makes me laugh, because actually in a really, really good way, because how I've ended up with this person, I don't know. And he would argue to the nth degree that he doesn't have spirituality. But that description is of my husband, and we've raised our kids, and they do those things. I mean, okay, don't get me wrong, these kids are not perfect. They drive me crazy. But, you know, and it's me, yeah, like you were saying, that kind of does everything and goes, well, you know, you're not appreciating what I've done. You know, you're not appreciating what I've done. Whereas he'll quietly go about his work, you know, just doing it, and no expectations at all. And it's just an infinite kindness. And yeah, it's the ability to accept people for who they are. And yeah, pretty grateful.
How about this seeing without preference? When I see someone, I'm learning not to have my mind made up already about them. And I've really learned that in recovery, because I'd go to an AA meeting and I realized the person I thought knew the least is the one I'll need to listen to the most. And I usually hear something I need from the newcomer, not from the guy with 30 years.
Yeah.
That's, I think, what for me, what happens when I listen to talks on podcasts, you know, of somebody's story. They may be new in recovery, but I always hear something that I can relate to all over again and remind me all over again why I'm in the place I'm in. It is. I always thought that listening to newcomers, what a bunch of bullshit. But no, it's really true. They really do say things that you need to hear if you're listening.
Yes.
Newcomers, and boy, do they keep me green.
Yeah.
You know, I prefer to be green because I can forget how truly bad and miserable and close to death I was after a couple of years of clean living.
Exactly.
You know, if I ever think I have this thing figured out, I have lost it. I have got to stay with a beginner's mind, with everything, not just recovery.
Yeah.
That's part of that dependence that I think if we want to practice this in other areas of our life, like we learn in the 12th step, that's essential. It's essential in everything for me to be open-minded. When I get closed-minded and I think I have something figured out, I'm headed for trouble, no matter what that is.
Right, especially in relating to other people. When you think you've got them figured out, you just don't.
Well, business too, Marla, anything. Because in business, I realized that, you know, I need to be open to have help that's bigger than me in whatever I'm doing. And if I think I've got this figured out and I'm not seeking help and not open to new ideas, open to, a God consciousness being involved in that, then I'm not going to get it. I'm just stuck with Buddy. I'm just stuck with me. And I would like to have more than me, no matter what it is we're talking about.
And this act without sense of self and give without condition. I mean, in the space that I'm in right now, I mean, that's black belt level stuff. And it's like, I feel like I think Russell Brand says it, maybe in the next life,
But Kurt, if you narrow it down to the moment, narrow it down to right now, it's not as big a deal. It's like, okay, how can I give? And for me, I get it down to what's my motive in what I'm doing at the moment? Am I trying to look good, be good, control you? Or what can I do for you? That really boils down to that for me. And if I can boil the moment down to what can I do for you instead of what can you do for me, it takes care of it for me. Mm-hmm. That seems to work. And if I try to think about doing this all day long, no, I can't do that. But in this moment, yeah, I can do it right now. I just got to keep doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
That really helps me to do that better. That's the fruit instead of the flower.
Yeah.
Acting without expectations. Yeah, Craig, I'm with you. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes. Any comments at the moment? Or we're going to move on to we're not going to have time to read everything, Marla. Do you have anything highlighted in this?
I do, yeah.
Okay, if you want to read your highlights, would probably be good.
So Wayne Dwyer titled this chapter, this verse, Living Within Your Own Nature. Here's the message behind this seemingly paradoxical verse of the Tao Te Ching. Your nature is to be good because you came from the Tao, which is goodness. But when you're trying to be good, your essential nature becomes inoperative. In your effort to be good, moral, or obedient, you lose touch with your Tao nature.
Wow.
Blah, 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 blah. This became clear to him. Nature is good without knowing it. Live by your essential nature, the Tao, which is oneness. It has no polarity. Yet the moment that you know you're good, you introduce the polarity of good versus bad, which causes you to lose your connection to the Tao. And the rest of it, this other one I loved also. What Lao Tzu seems to be saying to me is trust your own essential nature. Let go of all polarities and live in the indivisible oneness that is the Tao. The dichotomies of good, bad, right, wrong, proper, improper, legal, illegal, and the like can be difficult. Just remember that when they surface, the Tao is lost. This is do the Tao now. Spend a day consciously choosing to notice one of God's creatures, such as your dog, a butterfly, a moth, a spider, an ant, a fish, or cat, or deer, whatever attracts you. You can learn a lot from them about trusting your own inner nature. They are, as a poet says, so full of knowing, which is true. Animals live by their instinctive nature. They are inherently good.
It's interesting how with animals too, a wild animal that you're trying to help, how aggressive they get, but you're trying to help, but they really don't know how to respond to you. So you accept their aggressiveness not as something they're doing against you. And in the same way, I think of other people when they get aggressive at times, if I'm right-sized, in the same way, they don't know how to respond.
Right.
I really like the idea that when we start seeing these polarities and this divisiveness, the good and bad, the right, wrong. We're moving down the scale away from the Tao. We're moving away from love. We're moving away from our higher power. We're moving into our substitutes for what we have available to us that's better, which is living in the Tao, living in this nature that that's been hidden for so long within us.
And I equate nature as being instinct. Trust your first instincts. They're usually right. And that is usually true, I find. That's how I feel is my true nature, is my instinct. It's like...
How about this one? In your effort to be good, moral, or obedient, you lose touch with your Tao nature.
Well, the operative word there is effort.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, Lala, exactly. It's in our effort to be good, in our effort to push.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Life was always a push. Everything was push.
Yeah.
I pushed down the road. I pushed at the office. I pushed my secretary. I pushed everybody that worked with me. I just pushed everyone to what I thought they should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never surrendered that. I never acted without a sense of self or gave without condition. There was always a hook. If I did something, there was a hook because I wanted something back every time.
We're not taught this as we're growing up. We are not taught how to trust ourselves and to act without a sense of self. We're just not taught that.
We're also taught that, talking about the polarizing, this person's good, this person's bad, this is right, this is wrong. Whereas, that's just judgment. That's judgment. People are all black and white, and there is no direct right and wrong. So seeing it as a whole versus black or white is what I'm trying to live in now.
And the thing is, if we learn to live in that, we're going to do the right thing. Right. We're not going to kill people. We're not going to drink and drive. We're not going to disobey the law. It's just going to come natural if we're doing the right things.
Yeah.
It's funny how the effort comes into play when Lala said that. I mean, it just brings me back to when I was I think I was a little less than 18 months sober. I went to Sedona and I went hiking with this mystic guy.
Nice.
And so we get out of his car and he immediately stops. And there's these flowers and there's bees on the flowers. And he's like, whoa. And he just starts talking about it. He's like, I wonder if the bees talk to the bees and like this flower's better than the other. And I wonder how the flowers feel. Are they all connected? And he started doing all this stuff, right? And I was like, oh my God, we're never going to get to this hike. Let's get going. Let's get productive and put forth the effort so we can get to where we're going. But and then he's like, started meandering, walking through this trail. But it was just, I never got it until later where I was like, oh, that guy was completely in the moment. And he was just interested in what is right in front of him, nature and what's going, it was just, I blew my mind because it drove me crazy.
Yeah. The hardest part for me is not judging other people. Yeah. I find that, in practicing, not practicing goodness, but being good, how not to judge other people who aren't, Yeah.
I did it that day with him. I judged him immediately. Like, this guy's not productive. I don't know why I'm with him. What the hell is the deal? I do it in the rooms with guys in the rooms, like, oh my God, this guy,
It's natural.
Yeah. It's really judging myself.
Society. I don't know if it's natural so much as it's society. I don't know that it would be innate, our natural nature, but it is society. This guy's this. This guy's this. No,
Yeah, I can't listen to his story again. Yeah.
How about, is that some of the ordinary man is always doing things, yet many more are left to be done?
Yes, maybe.
Being ordinary or being foolish tries to be good and therefore is not good. Let's see, I wanted to talk about an affirmation that he had in here. Live in your essential nature by rejecting artificial principles. This was an affirmation that was really good. It says, I am the Tao. I am of the Tao, a piece of God, and I need no human-made device to confirm it. Goodness and godness are one, and I trust who I am and will act from this perspective. I am staying with the truth and not the false.
Beautiful.
That's a really good affirmation, a good way if we have a problem with, if we're trying to learn to walk in this, that's a good daily reminder to use for an affirmation. But really, this is all back to the same things we've heard so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first 3 steps, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
It's being powerless, trusting your higher power, and turning your will and your life over to the care of this God I misunderstand, you know? That's exactly what this is. Acting without a sense of self, giving without hooks, without conditions, and being open-minded to people without putting our bias and prejudices on them before we even give them an opportunity, you know?
Yes.
That's good. That was a good conversation today, guys. Any comments before we close? Anything we left out that we need to talk about with this?
No.
No.
All good? Okay. Well, guys, good to have everyone today, and we'll just stop with that.
All right. Have a good weekend.
Y'all have a great day. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. For more information about the RRC, the Recovery Revolution Community, go to omarpinto.com and click on the link that says Recovery Revolution Community. Once you join the RRC, you'll be able to participate in this meeting and many more live, plus access to a video library of past meetings and many more benefits for being a part of this growing community. Thanks again for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share this podcast with your friends in recovery.